Good evening, chosen ones. My name is Beelzebub. You're watching Virtual Beelzebub TV, and welcome back to the pit. So, I just had a passing thought about being rude. You see, for my entire life, and also currently, I've worked in customer service, and I gotta say, people are rude as shit to people who work in customer service. It's like to the point where it's almost hilarious. But it's kind of like draining sometimes. And like sometimes it's just completely unwarranted. Like, oh my god, people will just start the conversation mad as hell. And I think there's like this expectation where if you're angry and you display that anger, you're going to get a better quality of service. But all it really does is make the person you're talking to not want to help you. As someone who's worked in customer service for many, many years, I will go out of my way to annoy you if you start the conversation off rude. I will take longer to do whatever it is you want to do, waste your time, just because it annoys me that you felt the need to begin the conversation in a rude manner. Like, holy shit. Like, I know being rude in like your day-to-day life, you know, it's a handy tool to get shit done. Sometimes you genuinely have to be rude to people to get them to pay attention and take what you're saying seriously. Like, I get it. Plus, you're pissed. They're supposed to, work for you and, satisfy whatever it is you're trying to do. So, you need to let them know. Chop, chop. But okay. But honestly doesn't help. And I know, working in customer service, being a customer, trying to get something done, and then it doesn't work, and you didn't even want to call today, you're tired, you have other shit you want to do, and then this idiot on the phone or in person or whatever can't do this one simple thing, this one thing that you need to get done before you can just move on with your day. Why is he stalling? Why is he so incompetent? Like, I get it. I get that you're angry. Whatever it is that you're dealing with, whatever you want done, I understand that you're unhappy. You want to express that, and you want this to be over and done with as soon as possible, no matter what it is. Maybe you forgot to pay your light bill and your lights were cut off. Maybe your internet's cut off because you forgot to pay that. Maybe your credit card's cut off because you forgot. To be honest, most of my customer service has been over the phone and people are just not paying their shit. But I've also worked at like Walmart and they can't find something and they just like walk up to a random ass Walmart employee and expect them to know where everything in the fucking store is. Like, no, bitch. Walmart is a super center. We have lots of shit. No, I have no fucking idea where to find banana flavored croutons. I'm reasonably confident they don't make banana flavored croutons. And if they did, you shouldn't eat them because that sounds disgusting. Fuck you and fuck your banana croutons, lady. Jesus fucking Christ. But that's enough ranting about just being rude in general. So let's talk about how to actually get what you want, depending on the situation. If you are at a store, Walmart, Target. Also, if you say Target instead of Target, you're an asshole. Fuck you. Shut up. But no, Walmart, Target, Kmart. Is Kmart even still in business? God, I hope not. I hate Kmart. But if you're in a store and you're unhappy with the person, odds are this person that you have found is going somewhere else. Maybe they're stocking shelves. Maybe they're on their way to the break room. Maybe they're on their way back from break. Typically, whenever you find someone in a store, they have something else that they need to be doing. So if you're unhappy and they're unhappy that they've been bothered, these conversations are just destined to go to hell. Like you see someone stocking the shelves in like the grocery aisle and you're like, hey, do you know if you guys have fucking keratin smooth, argan oil, whatever the fuck? He doesn't know. He doesn't work in that department. And it's like they don't know. If you want to speak to like a manager, first of all, let's just clarify some terms. Manager and supervisor. You do not actually want to talk to the manager. The manager, one, doesn't have time to talk to you. They have a store to manage. Or if you're in a department store with multiple departments, they have their one specific department that they need to run. They're busy. They are not going to talk to you. And even if you're calling in a call center, the manager is the person managing the employees, not customers. So just to clarify some terms, you want to speak to the supervisor. Okay? You want to speak to the supervisor. They are the people who supervise customers and employees on the ground level. Now, in a store, there very likely isn't one immediately handy. They're going to have to go find one, and the supervisors are very often intentionally making themselves hard to find because they don't want, like, let's be honest, they just don't want to work extra hard. They've got 101 things they need to juggle. So if they can, spend a minute making themselves inaccessible, they will do it. As far as Walmart specifically, I don't know if this is true for all stores, but aisle 14, and if not aisle 14, then one of the aisles, usually somewhere in the middle, will sell cigarettes. And that requires them to check IDs. So they typically put they don't put newbies on the cigarette aisle. They put experienced employees. So if you want a pleasant experience checking out, even if you don't need cigarettes, if you just need someone competent to do something, go to aisle 14. They intentionally put more experienced employees at aisle 14. And aisle 14 always has to be manned because it's the only one with cigarettes. Also, that's also where the CSMs or CSSs, whether they call them customer service supervisors or customer service managers, they're the same thing. At some stores, they're so sick of people asking to speak to a manager that they just refer to their customer service supervisors as managers just because of how often people say, I don't want to talk to a supervisor, I want to talk to a manager. They just literally just called their supervisors managers just to appease the Karens. Like, God damn it. Anyway, that's where the customer service people actually hang out, is aisle 14. That's where their desk is. That's where they keep their clipboards. That's where they keep their shit. That's where they keep the spare change. Oh yeah, that's another thing. If you need quarters, and like the actual employees use those quarters for change. If you need quarters, go to aisle 14, and you don't even have to check out. You can just hang out there, wait for a well, you would have to wait in line, but if you go to aisle 14, you're much more likely to get quarters, and also you can also get more than one roll of quarters at some locations because that's where they keep them. Not all stores do this. Some completely forbid buying quarters or whatever just because of their policy. But if you want quarters, aisle 14. If you want a supervisor, aisle 14. If you just want a competent associate to check you out, aisle 14. That's where it all goes down. And like, moving on. Let's say you're on a phone call with customer service and you're unhappy, and whatever you want them to do, either they don't understand what you're trying to get across, maybe they're new, maybe they're incompetent, maybe they're just a genuine asshole. You know what? Things happen. Well, for whatever the reason, they either can't or won't or don't know how to do what you need them to do. And it's frustrating, and you're pissed, and you had to wait for 15 minutes to get to somebody, and now this guy is... Okay, you're pissed. Okay. Here's the secret. You don't have to be unhappy to speak to a supervisor. What? What is this secret? What is this hidden knowledge? Yeah, if you genuinely believe that you're not going to get what you need out of the person you're talking to, you can just be like, hey, I really want to talk to your manager, or not manager, supervisor. See, even I'm doing it. I hear it so much. I would like to speak to your supervisor. Now, sometimes you might have to wait a few minutes. There's, only so many supervisors available. Sometimes they might even have to schedule a supervisor to review the issue and call you back. And that's fine. You can even, if you want to, if you are genuinely in a rush and you do not have time and you just cannot wait, but you waited for 15 minutes, you don't want to call back later, whatever. You can request a supervisor to call you back, and you can specify a time. And if it's within their open hours, and a lot of these places are open 24/7, you can just specify, hey, okay, if there's no supervisor right now, I don't want to talk to you about this issue any further. Can they call me back within the hours of blah, blah? And there's a decent chance that depending on how their operation is set up, everyone's different, that they can just do that. And they'll usually get back to you tomorrow. They typically like to do it in the morning, get all their callbacks out of the way, like 7, 8, 9 a.m. But you can specify, hey, can you call me back after 5 when I'm done with work or whatever. So you don't have to be angry. If there's no supervisor available, you can get a call back, and you have the ability in most places to specify a time if they allow that sort of thing. And that goes for like anything. If you have a fee and they say they can't waive it because policy. Well, odds are that they legitimately cannot waive that fee because the person on the other phone, their computer system restricts them from doing certain things. Like, why can't you do it? It's just a button click away. Well, yeah, but that button is grayed out because the computer software says, no, this person's had a fee reversal before, they don't qualify. You do not have the ability to click this button, whereas a supervisor almost always does. Whether they will or not, well, that's up to them. But they're far more likely to be able to waive it. And they're also just generally more knowledgeable people. They're sometimes easier to talk to. They've got way more experience. And sometimes you're just talking to someone. The issue you're trying to get across isn't even all that complicated, but they're just incompetent. And maybe you don't even need a supervisor. You can always, I do this all the time. If I'm on a phone call with someone and I'm not communicating, I'll just hang up. If it's not too long of a wait, I'll just hang up and call back, and I'll usually get a different person. And you can do this, like people do this all the time, and honestly, I'm totally okay with it. If you don't need a supervisor, you just don't like this person, you can either hang up and call back, or sometimes you can just ask them to transfer you to a different associate. And this is also super helpful if they give you advice with full confidence that you're pretty confident is incorrect. There's nothing wrong with getting a second opinion. If it's not a long wait, hang up, call back, like, hey, the other guy told me X, you're telling me Y, you can just get a different point of view. Different people have different experiences. They've been working for a different amount of time. It doesn't hurt. And lastly, threats. Okay, we're circling back to being rude. That's what started this whole conversation. Being rude typically doesn't help, but I understand you're angry, you're venting, you want to get your point across, you want them to, get in motion. But on top of being rude, here's what doesn't help. If you're speaking to not a supervisor, not a manager, not anyone of any real importance, you're just talking to a normal employee, these people are usually making minimum wage. Sometimes a bit more if it's a little bit more skilled, like web support or whatever. If you say, if you don't fix issue X, I'm going to close my account, they don't care. If you're at Walmart and you're like, I'm never shopping here again, they are saying in the break room, making fun of you, and I hope she never does. Fuck that woman. I say woman, I say Karen. I'd say 60 to 80% of the angry customers are female, 20 to 40% are male. Men get angry too, but the anger is different. It's expressed differently. Women are more likely to complain and get irritated and frustrated. Men are a lot more likely to shout, and also less likely to ask for a supervisor. Typically when a man gets angry, he gets really fucking angry, and he just wants to holler and vent and make you feel like shit because you did him wrong. How dare you? I want you to stay here and fix this. It's less often that they ask for a supervisor, but honestly, you don't have to wait until you're unhappy to ask for a supervisor. Just ask. It's chill. And it's okay, fees. You want them waived, they can't do it. Calmly ask for a supervisor. It's not a big deal. Web support. If you have an issue, if you end up in a customer service with a customer service representative, and it's kind of a complicated issue, and the person you're talking to doesn't get it, you're likely already speaking with a specialist. Like if you're calling for about your credit card, and you call and they're like, I'm having an issue with the online account, and then they transfer you over to web support, that is escalations. So if they can't figure it out, a lot of the times there isn't a supervisor for the person you were escalated to. Like they are the specialist. So if they can't figure it out, again, hang up and call back and get someone else who does understand you. A lot of times like fraud or collections or web support, like these specialists, positions don't have supervisors, and if they do, they're usually less of them and less available. That's just a little tidbit. And finally, food service. Like, okay, they got your order wrong. Happens to everyone. And I have never once in my life, as an employee or a customer, ever had an issue getting the food replaced so long as I didn't already eat most of it. Like, if I take a bite or two, or I just look at it, I'm like, this is the wrong thing, bring it up, say the order was wrong, I'd like it fixed, so as soon as you can, just get me the thing that I actually wanted. And 99% of the time, they'll just replace it. You don't have to be pissed about it, just ask to have it waived. And you know why you don't have to make a scene about getting your food replaced? Because when you take your order back, if you haven't taken a bite out of it, or it's a bite that can be cut out, there's a very high likelihood that employee is like wrapping it up, put it in the fridge, and eating it when they get home. If they have a supervisor that doesn't give a shit, or isn't there, or isn't paying attention, or whatever, or maybe their company just allows it, they're probably going to eat what you didn't want because free food. Most of these people are living on minimum wage. They aren't going to pass up free food. They do not care if you return the food, so long as you're reasonable about it. And like, I get it. Okay. Sometimes they're at fast food places, they're like 16, 17, or 18-year-old high school kids who do not give a shit. Okay, I get it. Teenagers are assholes. I 100% agree with that. There's a lot of people in food service who are just there for the summer. They do not give a shit. But most of the people, at least in my experience, will actively try to not make the situation worse. And you'll notice you get better service at restaurants and stuff, like from the older people, because these are likely the career people. These are the people who've been working at, wherever for like 10, 15 years. They're usually pretty weathered. They're also usually pretty miserable because the pay is not good. But, my point is, if your order is wrong, just ask for a replacement. You're far more likely to get a replacement than a refund, but even then you can usually get a refund if you really need it. And sometimes there are certain specific instances where instead of being rude, sometimes, in rare instances, it is legitimately in your best interest to tell a white lie. Okay? I'll give you some examples. You're at returns. There, for some reason, like as a fellow employee of Walmart and other department stores, like sometimes the people who are operating returns are like really like scrutinizing for some reason, and they like ask you like 20 questions, and they like actively don't want to return an item. And I've never understood that because I only worked returns at like some department stores a few handful of times when someone else needed a break and there was no one else to cover it, so I had to do it. And like I never had a problem returning anything. Like there's no system requirement preventing them from refunding it. I don't understand it. But again, you don't have to be rude. If you can always just say, about the wrong thing, I got the wrong model, it doesn't work, you don't have to be furious about it. And they will, if you get someone who's being like really scrutinizing, feel free to just think about it, tell the smallest white lie that you can just to get them to whatever. Or like if you are calling about a credit card and you are not the credit card holder, but you're just trying to like make a payment on someone else's account so they're not late because the card holder is like uh, you know, they're old or infirm or they're in the hospital or whatever. If you need to do that, do it through the automated phone system. Because when you call in, we look at date of birth, you know, gender is pretty obvious. You know, we have to get you over to the fraud department if it seems just if you need to do something simple and it's over an account, just do it over the phone for them. Because if you lie about who you are, usually pretty, you know, I don't know, maybe you can get away with it if you're the, you know all the information, the same gender, roughly the same age, maybe you can get away with it, but just do it through the automated phone system. If you were trying to do, and if you're ever making a payment, and you're like the authorized user or whatever, or it's a company account and you're just an employee trying to make a payment, and they ask you, are you a signer on this account or are you an owner on this account? Just say yes. There's absolutely no reason whatsoever for you to say anything other than yes. Because the purpose of that line is, hey, if we let you make this payment and you're not on the account, and the actual account owner, the applicant, authorized officer, whatever, on the account calls back, and they find out who someone who didn't have permission made a payment from their account to this account, like from their checking account, without their consent, they're going to be pissed and they can sue. Doesn't matter if we're your internet company, phone company, credit card company, whatever. We have to ask, are you the owner of the account that you're paying from? Because if you're not, we can be sued. But if you lie to our faces and you are not the owner of that account, but you say you are, it is not our problem. We do not care. If you lie, we are not liable and we cannot be sued because you are at fault. So, are you the owner on this account that you're paying from? Yes. Always answer yes, even if you're not. There's no reason not to. We just don't want to get sued. All right. At this point, I feel like if I keep talking, I'm just going to start repeating myself. I really just wanted to vent about how, God, it's so frustrating being in customer service when people just start the call mad and you haven't said a word. Oh, also, one more thing before I go. If you have a bad experience with an employee, especially if it's a call center where like all they do is answer calls, if you have a bad experience, you're always able to speak to a supervisor and report their behavior. Or if you just want to be done with it and you think about it, you're still mad about it, you still think that they were out of line, out of pocket, unknowledgeable, you can always call back and be like, hey, I want to speak to the supervisor because, and if you're ever calling back and you want to speak to a super, you have to tell them why you're calling. Just give them the briefest of brief. I'm calling because I was unhappy with the previous associate and I want them to be, I want them to be educated. That's a good word. That's a very businessy, PC way of phrasing it. So you speak to their supervisor and you don't even have to yell. You don't have to be angry about it. Just be like, I talked to person X. It was at this time about this account and they told me incorrect information or they were just rude or whatever. I'm not happy. Can you please talk to them about it? And they will actually do it. If you talk to an employee, then you say, oh man, the other guy was so rude, he should be fired. We're not going to care. But if you speak to a supervisor, and like the other guy was rude as shit and you didn't know what he was talking about, they will actually coach them. They will call them up or meet up with them in person or however their operation is set up. They will get an email or a talking to. Pretty unlikely that they'll be fired, but they're going to be coached about it. They're going to get called out on their shit, and their behavior will have to change. Because typically, if you're rude as shit to a customer, that's usually a final warning, or maybe they have a three strikes policy. You can't do that, act a certain way. You can't be incompetent or rude or whatever too many times and be called out on it, and still keep your job. And there's Sure, the calls are recorded, but the odds of your call being randomly picked up for review are less than 1%. No. Call back, explain in simple, clean English, like, I was trying to do this, and you said this incorrectly, they were unnecessarily rude to me. Please talk to them, please educate them, please whatever. And they will. Something will happen. Maybe you want them to be fired. It's unlikely they will, but they will likely be coached about it, be trained about it. Like, empathy training is a real thing that we do like every 3 months at places that I've worked, where like every 3 months they go over, and this is how you go about not being an asshole. So it's a real thing. But yeah, I really need to stop talking about this before I just start repeating myself. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say about being rude and just general customer service tips. I don't know if anyone needed this information. Maybe I'll just get a bunch of people in customer service going, yes, there's no reason to be rude, blah, 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 blah. Or maybe I'll get some customers who have had bad customer service experiences and saying, don't defend these assholes, they're rude and incompetent. I don't know. I have no idea what the reaction will be. Or probably, seeing as I have 0 views and 0 subscribers, I'll get no response at all. Maybe I'll blow up and be huge and people will watch my old video catalog and watch all my old videos and make a bunch of comments and I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking. I will see you next time.
Pack up your sins and go to the devil in Hades. You'll meet the finest of gentlemen and the finest of ladies. They'd rather be down below than up above. Hades is full of thousands of Joneses and Browns, Houlihan's, Cohens and Brady's. You'll hear a heavenly tune that went to the devil because the jazz band started picking it, put a drink in it, a jazzy kick in it. They've got a couple of old reformers in heaven, making them go to bed at